You walk into any lecture hall, any meeting, and what do you hear? That familiar clatter of keyboards. I mean, it makes sense, right? Taking notes on a laptop feels like the default choice. It's fast, it's tidy, you can organize everything. But what if all that speed, all that efficiency, is actually holding us back? What if the old school way, just a pen and a piece of paper, has a secret advantage for our brains?
So today, we're going to try and settle this. In the big fight for better grades and, actually remembering what you learn, which tool really is the champion? Is it the humble pencil or the high-tech keyboard? I think the answer is going to surprise you.
Okay, so let's get into the science of it. To get a real answer, we're not just going to go with a gut feeling. We're turning to a huge scientific investigation that pulled together years of research to finally get to the bottom of this.
And look, this wasn't some small survey in one classroom. We're talking about a massive meta-analysis, which is basically a study of studies. Researchers took the data from 14 different experiments involving more than 3,000 students to see if a clear pattern emerged. And after shifting through all that information, they landed on this number, a negative correlation of 0.142. Okay, so what on earth does that mean? Well, it's actually pretty simple. It means that as the use of laptops for note-taking went up, academic performance consistently went down. Now here's where it gets really eye-opening. The researchers actually modeled what that correlation looks like in terms of real grades for about 1,000 students. So check this out. If you look at that top row for the A grades, students who wrote by hand were more than 50% more likely to get an A. But the truly stunning number is at the very bottom. Laptop users were 3.5 times more likely to fail. That is a massive real-world difference. All right, so we know what the data is telling us. But the real question is why? I mean, how can something so simple, how you take a note, have such a huge impact? Well, it turns out it's not really about the pen or the keyboard. It's about the kind of thinking that each tool pushes you to do. This really breaks it down. When you're writing by hand, you physically can't write down every single word the speaker says. You just can't. So you're forced to listen, to process what's important, and to summarize it in your own words. Your brain is actively engaged. But on a laptop, it's way too easy to just slip into autopilot, mindlessly typing every word you hear. You become a court stenographer, not a learner. And that's not even mentioning the giant black hole of distraction, email, social media, shopping. That's always just one click away. So what's the takeaway? Should you just throw your laptop out the window? Well, not necessarily. The real secret weapon here isn't the pen itself. It's the process the pen encourages. The key to really learning smarter, not harder, is this idea called active learning. So what is active learning? It's basically the exact opposite of just letting information wash over you while you zone out. It means you're moving beyond those passive habits we all fall into, like, rereading a chapter 10 times or highlighting literally every sentence. It's a toolkit of strategies that force your brain to actually wrestle with the material and make it your own. Let's look at how this actually works. Active learning starts even before you crack open the book. First, you've got to know your purpose. Why are you reading this? Is it to cram for a test or to get a big picture overview? Second, try to connect what you're about to learn to stuff you already know. This gives your brain little hooks to hang the new information on. And third, just do a quick preview. Skim the headings, look at the pictures, create a mental roadmap. That way, you're not just diving in blind. Okay, and then, while you're in the middle of learning, this is where you really put your brain to work. Instead of just copying things down, talk back to the text. Write your own questions and comments in the margins, stuff like, wait, how does this connect to what we learned last week? And constantly try to summarize the main ideas in your own words, just like you're forced to do with handwriting. And most importantly, check in with yourself. Ask, am I actually getting this, or did my mind just wander for the last 5 minutes? And here's the final piece of the puzzle, the one most of us skip. What you do after you learn. You have to test yourself. Seriously. Close the book, put your notes away, and try to write down everything you remember. It's called retrieval practice, and it's one of the most powerful learning hacks there is. Another great one? Try to explain the concept to a friend. You know the saying, if you can teach it, you really know it. Okay, so let's tie all of this together. We started with this simple showdown, right? Pen versus keyboard. But what we've really uncovered is a much deeper truth about how we learn. It's not about the technology you're using, it's all about the technique. The scientific conclusion is pretty hard to argue with. The researchers who did that huge meta-analysis put it perfectly themselves. They said the pencil appears to be significantly mightier than the keyboard for classroom note-taking. Why? Because it forces that active mental engagement that leads to genuine learning. But here is the most important takeaway from all of this.
You can be a passive note-taker with the pen, just doodling. And you can absolutely be an active learner with a laptop if you're intentional about it. The tool just nudges you one way or the other. So maybe the best strategy is a mix of both. Take those first messy notes by hand to really process the ideas, and then use your digital tools to organize and study them later. Because the real question isn't what you're holding in your hand, it's how you're using your brain. Passive or active? That choice is up to you.